Okay. What the fuck?
You okay?
What? Hi and welcome back. And today, I always want to stay up to date what is happening in the United States because, I want to learn as much as possible about the US. And therefore, I heard yesterday something in the news about riots going on in LA. And I thought, why not watch it together? Why not? Maybe I give a little bit of my opinion when I have something to say. And, media outlets in the United States are sometimes a little bit biased. That is why I turned to the British BBC in order to make this fair so that no party is like, oh, that was like left, this was like right, and to keep it fair. So if you like this content, want to see more of this stuff, like also like things that happen right now in the US, you should definitely, especially with political topics, hit a like. And if you want like my content, then subscribe. And if you want to see more of me, you should definitely check out my Patreon. Link is in the description. And now let's go.
Have accused President Trump of the city and state leaders in Los Angeles have accused President Trump of deliberately provoking chaos after a third day of protests descended into violence. Law enforcement officers fired tear gas and rubber bullets at crowds who'd gathered, while some protesters torched cars and tried to block a major road. Well, President Trump called for the National Guard to move in following earlier confrontations as immigration officers...
What are the National Guards? That sounds very special. National Guard US. What is this? It's a state-based military. Okay, but if it's state-based, why can Trump use it then? Because he's the president. He's not he's not like a governor or something. Becomes part of the US reserve components. US Army when activated. Interesting, but why can Trump use it then and not like the governor? Overseas combat missions. Okay, the guard always responds with speed, strength, and okay. Yeah, here. Difference between Army and Army National Guard. The National Guard is the second arm of the reserve component and consists of both Army and Air Force. Okay, so basically they're very similar, just that one is by the state and one is by the president. But why did he then give, to the National Guard? Because should that not be then the governor?
Rounded up unauthorized migrants.
Why did he not bring the military? Because he's then the chief of the military, right?
Angeles Police Department says that a phone alert's been sent to people in the Civic Center area declaring an unlawful assembly, with protesters told to leave. They also add that business owners are reporting looting.
Oh, that's
our
not
correspondent
good.
John Sudworth has the latest.
Once again, downtown Los Angeles echoed to the sound of tear.
Damn, Los Angeles has this year so much things, right? This, then in the beginning of the year, the wildfires. Damn, oh, wow.
And rubber bullets. At one point, protesters surged onto one of the city's busiest highways before the police eventually cleared the road. These were scenes that were repeated throughout the day.
Over the past few minutes, you can probably see the guy with the green gun there. He's been firing rubber bullets at the direction of the crowd, and it shows you just how volatile the situation is.
This, though, is what's turned the localized protests into a major story. President Trump's protocol-busting decision to send in the National Guard against the wishes of the state governor and the city's mayor.
Hey, I thought it's the army of the state. So why can't Trump use it then?
Federalized troops is a dangerous escalation, but we need to be real about this. This is about another agenda. It's not about public safety. There's clearly no plan, and there is clearly no policy.
Okay, so they really don't want it, but why can he do it then?
Insists the National Guard are needed to keep the peace.
I mean, if we see danger to our country and to our citizens, we'll be very, very strong in terms of law and order. It's about law and order.
This Waymo self-driving car was set alight. Another illustration of the sporadic violence. But the majority of protesters have been peaceful.
I mean, I when you see the pictures, you see that maybe there should be a little bit, that it not gets out of order, right? But at the same time, I'm thinking like, when basically the governor, Trump is responsible for the whole USA, also for things with other countries, right? Of course, he cannot have as much focus on just one state or one city than the governor or the mayor, right? So if they say it's not needed, they have probably a better understanding of the situation, because that is their only job, to know what is going on, I think. So maybe, I would say maybe it's not needed, if they say it's not needed.
Many of them from the immigrant community themselves.
There's some people that are working, not even for the minimum wage, but they have to work.
And what do you say when Donald Trump says, I have a mandate, I was elected on the promise of deporting people?
He's not the boss, only God.
The government, though,
he is the boss of the
that
country.
the immigration raids will continue, and LA is bracing for more of this. John Sudworth, BBC News, Los Angeles.
Please hit like and subscribe. It would help me so much. Thank you.
Well, our reporter Carl Nasman's been monitoring events for us in Los Angeles. He's been speaking to my colleague Sally Bundock.
It's still a very fluid situation here
Oh
tonight in
my,
Los
wait, is this all police cars? I mean, looks like it, right? Because it looks so violet.
Angeles. We've been watching as several police cars and helicopters above us are really trying to tackle some of these pockets of unrest that spread out across this area of downtown Los Angeles tonight. We've seen just in the past a few minutes or so several fires being set. There was a car driving through a crowd. It's just felt slightly out of control, if not very out of control at times. And this is all...
By the way, to which have, like, does the police need to listen to the mayor, to the governor, or to the president? To which does the police, like not the National Guard, but the police need to listen to if they say different things?
Spiraling from what we saw earlier today, right here. This is Highway 101. This goes going through the center of Los Angeles, and you can see here still a long line of police cars. These are California highway patrol vehicles. They are still parked there guarding the entrance to the highway here, and you can still see obviously that part of the freeway is still shut down to traffic. It's been like that for hours. They are struggling to get this back open. And even hours ago, there were still clashes between some of these patrol officers.
Okay, but why? I mean, what I get is basically that people wanted to close the highways, right? And the police said, no, we don't want that. Please go away, right? And now they close it themselves. But is this not in the end exactly what the people wanted?
And demonstrators who were standing above these overpasses that go over the freeway in this section. We saw some very intense clashes. In fact, fires breaking out down below on top of and around some of these police vehicles. Eventually, it seemed police were able to gain the upper hand and move these demonstrators away from this area. That, though, spread some of the troublemakers and people that are out late into this night, really intent on continuing these demonstrations out.
That looks like a paintball rifle.
Further reaches of the city. But, you know, this is a scene right now where we've seen several dozen people arrested and the authorities right now trying to gain the upper hand. And, of course, these are all scenes that we know President Trump will...
They don't have to punch so hard. Oh, my God, you know, that is not necessary.
Following and will be watching, and this is something that he says he wants law and order on the streets.
God,
officials here say they have it under control, but
that's
right now the scenes that we're seeing play out certainly don't necessarily say that Los Angeles right now is a city that is necessarily calm.
And of course President Trump made the very controversial step of sending in the National Guard on Sunday. Just describe how that has changed things and impacted the mood among demonstrators and protesters.
Yeah, I was speaking with one demonstrator earlier on this afternoon, and she was very emotional, and she said really the spark for these protests across these 3 days in Los Angeles were those immigration enforcement actions that we saw at several locations in Los Angeles. This is a sanctuary city. It's a city made up of immigrants. It has one of the largest concentrations of undocumented migrants in the entire country, and so those immigration actions by those ICE agents, I think, really struck this community personally and struck it hard. But, you know, that was a spark. But the fuel seems to be, at least if you talk to California officials, the president's decision to federalize some of these National Guard members, send them to Los Angeles, and have them symbolically, essentially, guard the federal buildings. Because it's interesting, I should say that even despite the amount of unrest that we have seen playing out this afternoon and this evening, we actually haven't seen the National Guard itself doing much of the responding. They're not the ones out here confronting protesters or demonstrators. They haven't been the ones really here to try to get things under control. They've mostly just been guarding the entrance to the Federal Detention Center, which is just across the highway here. So although it was a very symbolic move, it seems to be something that definitely inflamed tensions here, but it doesn't seem like they're actually playing that role of peacemaker like President Trump might have hoped.
Well, it's definitely inflamed tensions between Gavin Newsom and the president. That's California's governor, of course, Gavin Newsom, who is urging President Trump to revoke the troop deployment. But it would seem the White House is not willing to do that at this moment, saying they are rightfully stepping in.
It feels to me a little bit like a power, like a power fight, a fight of power. Who has, the bigger, pistol, basically, which, is never a good thing. I don't know. It's, to make such a power struggle fight on the back of people, of actual people, I never like. But we have to see what happens there then.
Law and order, so a real stalemate there.
Even as we see the tension and the clashes playing out in the streets, we also have this war of words, don't we, between state officials like Gavin Newsom, the local mayor here, Karen Bass, and then the president of the United States. We heard from Gavin Newsom today.
Those people should work together. People should work together there in order to help this crisis here. But I don't know, I have the feeling that they work against each other, actually.
Actually, is considering suing the Trump administration tomorrow over that move of deploying California National Guard here into Los Angeles. That's a move that the governor says is his call to make, not the president's.
That's what I thought, because they said, state control. So basically, I also learned over the years now, or over the year that I did this here, that states have a lot of power. And basically, sometimes federal things are like, nap, bap, 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 bap. The state does this. So I'm wondering why Trump can do this, actually.
See some legal battles that will play out here. This is all kind of unprecedented territory. These are things we have not seen in many decades in the United States.
But in the US, where there have been clashes on the streets of Los Angeles as President Trump urges a crackdown on demonstrators. Police have ordered protesters to leave the downtown area, declaring it an unlawful assembly area. Well, the unrest was triggered on Friday when immigration agents carried out raids on areas of the city with large Latino populations. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, otherwise known as ICE, have made 100,000 arrests across the country since President Trump's return to the White House. Well, in response to the unrest in LA, the president sent around 2,000 National Guard. He says that he's suing the Trump administration for deploying the National Guard without his permission. Well, here's what President Trump had to say when he was questioned about what's happening in Los Angeles a short while ago.
What did your intel tell you about these people causing all the problems in LA? Are they people ICE is trying to deport, or are they professional agitators?
The people that are causing the problem are professional agitators. They're insurrectionists. They're bad people. They should be in jail. Thank you.
I don't know, from what I've seen, that they don't look like they are like sponsored or somewhere organized. They're just, I don't know, normal people. So I would say maybe that President Trump here is maybe under a misconception or something, or just maybe wants, or just lies. I don't know. But I don't know. The people, for me at least, don't look like that.
Covering the demonstrations say they've been targeted by the police. The BBC has been given this clip of Lauren Tomasi, who's a foreign correspondent for Australia's Channel 9 News, as she's shot with rubber bullets. Have a look.
What? They shot the
moving them
researcher?
on through the heart of LA.
Okay. What the fuck?
You okay?
What?
Are you okay?
Where did it hit you? Just my leg under.
Well, joining me now is
She was just standing there making a news report. There was not even many people, and it was maybe an accident. Look, there was nothing. There are 5 people, 2,000 police people or something. What the fuck? And this guy's like, yeah, now let's shoot them news reporter. What the fuck?
You okay?
What is wrong with them? Are they mentally disabled or something?
Just felt like I'm dead.
Well, joining me now is our senior North America correspondent, John Sudworth in Los Angeles, and chief North America correspondent, Gary O'Donoghue in Washington. John, to you first, and what's the mood in LA this morning?
Well, I'll just give you a little bit of a scene set, Myriam, as to where we are. You can see the police cars behind me. They are here guarding the entrance to this street. A very short distance away along there is the entrance to the detention center, where some of the undocumented immigrants who've been arrested in these workplace raids here in this city over the last few days have been taken. And this has been a focal point of the protest. We saw the National Guard lined up outside that entrance yesterday. Big crowd of protesters here, and then you can see on across the street here, this road is now open, but yesterday there were hundreds of protesters here. Just a little way over there is the 101, one of LA's biggest highways. That was blocked yesterday by the protesters, and this was the location of some of the most intense clashes between protesters and the police. The streets, Myriam, are still littered with the debris from those clashes. I've just picked this up. This is one of those rubber bullets. There are hundreds of them lying around, literally, which shows you how intense some of the moments were yesterday. It's this kind of foam bullet, rubber bullet, that hit the Australian reporter that you were speaking about there in that clip. And obviously they can do some damage. Another media
I thought it's like maybe like
a British
this
photographer needed,
you know, but like, you know, this thing was like proper size.
Emergency surgery after being hit by one of these yesterday. It was left embedded in his thigh, and he needed it removed. So that gives you some sense of how volatile how dangerous these situations can become. But at the moment, it is very calm. There are more protests planned as we get into the early part of this afternoon. And we are told that there are something now like 150 people have been arrested in these protests since they began on Friday.
John, thank you very much indeed for that. Well, let's cross
I mean, for what
now.
can you arrest them? I think probably, you know, America, land of the free. So basically they should have a right to protest, basically, right? So for what? I mean, only if they punch a police guy or something, right? Otherwise they cannot be arrested. Yeah. Wow. Okay, actually I learned a lot. I like this. So tell me, I hope, you know, I was fair. I think I think I was fair pretty much. Yeah, and tell me what you think in the comments. Of course, stay civilized. Otherwise you will get banned. Just, you know. And yeah, I hope. Yeah, tell me if you should do more like this, because I have the feeling that tensions in the US are rising. And to maybe, you know, because I have often also the feeling that the basis of talks is often poisoned, because then it's like, oh, you are this, oh, you are that. And, you know, maybe it's quite nice to have an outsider's perspective that is not like this or that or this or that, to see what is there, right? I could see that. So yeah, I hope you like this, and we see each other in the next video. Until then, keep liking, subscribing, and bye. Thank you so much to Todd Phillips and all of the other patrons and channel members for your support. You're awesome.